Yeah, one of the big copes over the past couple of months is this idea that like Nintendo is only putting out 7 out of 10 games on Nintendo Switch 2. The narrative being, of course, that we haven't had a huge, critically successful game since Donkey Kong Bonanza, and everything else that Nintendo's put out has been slop. You know, ZA is the worst game ever, Metroid Prime 4 is unplayable, and of course, Mario Tennis is a tennis game. The worst thing they possibly could have done is make a tennis game with Mario in it. Obviously, this is like hyperbolic and ridiculous and makes no sense. You know, like every console has 7 out of 10 games, right? But this has been like the major talking point from the community for a while, is this idea that Nintendo doesn't have any heavy hitters in the near future. Like, please ignore Final Fantasy VII doing well. Please ignore games like Dynasty Warriors Origins coming out. Please ignore Yakuza Kiwami 3. Please ignore, like, every other game that's coming out over the next month. Please ignore Pokapia, which, everyone's over the moon about right now. Like, oh, yeah, everything they put out in this 2-month period is a 7 out of 10 game. Like, they're acting like this is going to be some huge, like, disaster that's going to destroy the console. But in actuality, these guys are being overly anal. Nobody pays that much close attention to like the release schedule of games. Nobody's gonna look at like Mario Tennis Fever coming out and being like, oh yeah, that game isn't good enough for me. I guess I'm not picking up a Switch. Like, anybody who's picking up a Switch 2 is getting it for Mario Kart or Bonanza or for any other game on the platform. But Mario Tennis absolutely has an audience who like it for what it is, but it's not a heavy hitter. And that's fine. Like that's the thing people don't understand, is that there is plenty of room in the market for smaller budget sports games, niche games like this. Like there isn't like they aren't like wasting resources and time making something that nobody plays. Obviously. Obviously a lot of people really like Mario Tennis. Obviously, everyone picks up these games as they come out, and obviously, they have a pretty active scene on like immediately. Like it's just a weird cope that we keep seeing these people come up with and try to like introduce to try and keep up the narrative that like Nintendo's on the verge of failing. Is that like, yes, all their games are 7 out of 10. Like, they try so hard to push this narrative. They fight so hard to keep up the grift that, like, the reality of the situation just is, it's lost on them. Like, they don't understand the reality of what's happening, is that the reason the Switch 2 is getting a lot of 7 out of 10 games is because it's a successful console, and they'll do well on it. Like, this isn't complicated. This isn't something that, like, that can't go under the radar or could be brushed aside. The fact of the matter is, these games are doing well, and that there's really nothing that, like, they can do to kind of, like, downplay that. So they kind of have to make it about something, like, superficial and ridiculous. Like, saying that games, that come out in the high 70s on Metacritic are somehow, like, these massive disasters from the company and damaging the brand. And it's just not going to happen. Like, it is just downright absurd that, like, any of these people are trying these stunts. It's, like, ridiculous that so many people are coming up with this narrative and trying to, like, fabricate their bullshit and trying really, really hard to push their nonsense and trying to say that, like, Nintendo's failing or that they're struggling. Like, it's just a giant cope. That's what this all comes down to. The reason why they're so upset about every single Nintendo game is due to the fact that they are so desperate to downplay this console and to make sure that this thing fails and that the PS5 and the PC succeed. That's what this all really boils down to, really, and why they spurg out about it so much, is that they feel as if they can, like, keep up the Nintendo hate grift for as long as possible, then maybe someday, like, they'll be able to meme it into reality where people will, like, see a Mario Tennis game and sneer at it. Like, I don't want to play that. Like, if I wanted to play tennis, I would play Tiger Woods. I would play, Tom Brady. I would play with real athletes in a real setting. That's their mindset. Okay, like they don't care about the unique aspects of Mario Tennis. They don't care about what this game brings to the table. All they care about is the illusion that this game existing is somehow like ruining Nintendo and making it worse. Whether it's pretending that Camelot making these games is taking away resources from Golden Sun, or trying to say that these games are worthless and nobody plays them. They come to all these like insane conclusions and make all these insane statements. It really does need to be understood that this kind of hyperbolic nonsense really needs to be dismissed and denounced. It is downright absurd how we're seriously listening to YouTubers try and tell us that Nintendo has a problem releasing 7 out of 10 games. They're trying to tell us that this is some like huge epidemic that's going to ruin Nintendo and like the console. They're trying so hard to fabricate this narrative that Nintendo's perpetually failing and on the way out and like just not doing very well, when in actuality it is just a giant cope. Like that's just the reality of this, is that this is a giant cope, and it should be treated as such. This is something that we really should talk about going forward, is that like these niche games coming out and selling like a couple of million units, it's not some blemish on Nintendo's record. Having a lower Metacritic score than Mario or Zelda is not going to inhibit the success of these games. The simple fact of the matter is, like, a score like this means absolutely nothing, other than the fact that like it's not a AAA high budget game. Like, again, plenty of people love 7 out of 10 games. Like, they have an audience. People clearly like this stuff. So why exactly are you spurging out about it? Like, I can tell you from experience, like, the vast majority of the audience won't even know that games like this, games that they're not interested in, like, even exist. So, like, what harm comes about by having these things made and marketing them and releasing them, right? There's nothing wrong with Mario Tennis Fever. And yet, going into this release, we were always told that this was going to be a failure, this was going to be a bomb, this was going to, like, negatively impact the Switch 2. It was nothing but a giant cope. And it is high time that we acknowledge that.